Hello guys, I'm Cambridge English teacher Rory from studentlanguages.com. If you're watching this video, that means you're a member of my website. So hi, how are you doing? Nice to meet you, nice to see you here. Please write me a comment below. If you open this video in a separate YouTube tab, then you can write comments below it, or you can write a comment at the bottom of this web page if you're watching it on the Dictation Use of English Open Close webpage. But it's lovely to see you here. Thank you so much, I'd like to say, for joining my membership website. There's loads of useful information around this website, which is specifically for you members. And if you'd like to find out more about how to access some of that information, write me a comment or write me an email and let me know that you want to find out more or how to find that new information. But I will keep trying to send emails to you to let you know of my updates. And if you haven't already seen it, then I will show you one of the best pages on the website now. So I'm going to share my screen with you guys. Hopefully you can see this, c.studentlanguages.com, which is the membership site, // Cambridge exam preparation. That's the page with all my FCE and CAE courses and other useful information. And at the bottom of that page, there's this link to other resources. If you click on that link, a new tab will open and you will see these links here. And so one of these links, for example, is YouTube. You can go to YouTube and you can find some of my English videos, but there are also more links that I'll keep adding here and here. I'll keep adding into these articles here. But as I say, those I think are the most important pages: Cambridge exam preparation, other resources, and my courses. And this one, Cambridge exam materials. Not necessarily all about the Cambridge exams. For example, this dictation video, I will put a dictations link in here for you. But yeah, that's a really good starting point for this website. What I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to go through the explanations, and this is for members only, lucky you. I'm going to go through the explanations for the answers in the last dictation video that I made about half an hour ago. And if you want to watch that, that's on this page, which is Use of English Open Close. If you come to that page, there's quite a lot of information. You can watch the dictation video here, which I think is really useful for you to improve your listening skills, your writing skills, your grammar skills. If you copy my pronunciation, then it will be helping your speaking skills. And the dictation was based on tips and techniques for passing the speaking exam. So I really recommend watching that video if you haven't seen it already. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to explain the correct answers, and I will show you those answers here quickly on this screen. In fact, it's probably easier to see them on this screen, so let's have a look. This is the completed passage with the answers in it. If you don't want to see this, pause the video and try to complete the dictation, which was in the last video. I will also put a link in the description below if you're watching this on YouTube to that dictation video. But let's have a look at the completed passage with the answers. I'm going to give you 30 seconds to a minute to have a read of this passage with those answers, and then we will critique each answer in turn. Okay, so let's have a look at this gap number one. Gap number one was in this sentence. These questions may be on topics such as your likes and dislikes, your family and friends, itchy nose, sorry, itchy, your family and friends, your English studies, or even what you have blank doing recently. Okay, so this is from a present perfect continuous sentence. We can see have and then a blank and then a verb with an ing. That is the present perfect continuous. That's how we form the present perfect continuous in English. But I'm going to assume that I don't know which word goes in this blank. So the technique that I tell students to use with this use of English Part 2 open close exercise is to quickly read the whole passage at the beginning to have an idea, then find this first gap, see if you know which word goes in the gap. If you don't, move on to the next step. If you do, still move on to the next step because it's good to confirm your thinking. So let's say I don't know what the word is, so I'm going to move on to the next step in my technique, which is to identify which type of word we need. Well, I've identified that it's a present perfect continuous structure here, and in present perfect continuous structures we need, you know which word? It's a verb. Maybe you know it, maybe not. If you still don't know it, then the next step to move on to, or even if you do know it, still move on to this next step, step number 4, which is to think about the meaning and the sound of the sentence. And sometimes what I think is a really good policy to use is to take the sentence and ask myself a question using the words that they give me. So I could ask myself, for example, what have I been doing recently? There I've told myself the answer. What have I been doing recently? Been is the answer that we need here. In present perfect continuous tenses, we use a subject. Here we have you, then have, then been, and then a verb with an ing. So again, that tip was trying to form a question can help you. Another useful tip to remember is that most words you need in this part 2 open close use of English exercise, most words you need to use to fill in the blanks will be short words. For example, auxiliary verbs, prepositions, conjunctions, sometimes relative pronouns. So those are some key words to look out for. That's the answer. Well, there's a question. What have I been doing recently? What have you been doing recently? Or what you have been doing recently is the correct answer. Been. Okay, let's have a look at gap number 2, blank 2 from the dictation. There, blank, be a question about the future or some other general questions. Do you know which word goes in the gap? So I'm going to assume this time that I think the word might be may, or might, or could, or will, or can. That's what I'm assuming. I think it could be any of those words at this point. I'm not sure which one. So let's move on anyway to step number 3. Always move through the steps. Always go to step number 3. What type of word do we need? Well, I think we need an auxiliary verb. I've studied English sentence structures and word formation enough that I think we need an auxiliary verb. Before the exam, you should study sentence structures and word formations. And I will put a link in the description with this video to those sentence structures and word formations, or sorry, to a page on my website where I talk about those in more detail. You should study those before the exam. And hopefully if you do, you will recognize in this type of sentence you need an auxiliary verb. Moving to step number 4, as you should always do, think about the meaning and the sound of the sentence. So I'd come up with these options: may, might, could, will, and can. Now, will is too definitive in this sentence, meaning will is like a definite statement. There will be a question about the future. But actually, in the context of this passage, we're talking about the speaking exam, and we don't know if there will be a question about the future or not. So we can't say that with any certainty. So I don't think it's will, based on the meaning. It's too certain. I don't know if the examiner in the exam will ask me a question about the future or not. They might do, but it's not definite. The word can, we don't normally use in future hypothetical situations. That's a good thing to notice. We don't normally use can in future hypotheticals. So actually, we can't use can here. There can be a question about the future. Doesn't sound right to me. But the other three, may, might, and could, they can be used in future hypothetical situations. And in fact, any of those answers are correct. You can use any of these three answers. If you are watching this live, please write me a message in the chat below. I'd love to hear from you. So do that, or if you want to, again, you can write a comment below the video or write a comment at the bottom of this web page if you're watching it on my website. And if you haven't already subscribed to my YouTube channel, please do so. You can do it by pressing the subscribe button, which should be down there. If it's not, open the video on YouTube and then it should be down there. And if you press the bell notification, it will turn on notifications. If you press all notifications, it will turn on notifications so your phone will let you know when I've made a new video. And you also might receive that via email. That could be really useful because although at the moment I'm making videos every Sunday at 2 o'clock British time and every Friday at 6 o'clock British time, I might vary this in the future. And if you're preparing for an exam, then it's really useful just to be notified every time I make a new video. It can help you prepare. So I recommend, again, subscribing, pressing that bell notification. Let's move on to the next gap, or the next blank, blank 3. So it says, this part of the exam is designed to blank you feeling comfortable. Okay. Step 2 in my technique is to think if we know the word. Do we know the word? I'm going to assume that I don't know which word goes in the gap. No idea. So then I move on to step 3. What type of word do we need here? I think we need a verb. This part of the exam is designed to you feeling comfortable. It's designed to do something. To do something. Often I do that when I'm trying to think of what goes in the gap. I read it to myself and think, it's designed to, and if I can put the word do in the gap, or a similar type of verb, that's the way I try to think of it. So here we need a verb. It's designed to do something. It's designed to you feeling comfortable. Which verb is it? Well, I think it will be in the infinitive form. Why do I think that? Because there's the word to before it. That's the big clue. It is designed to do something, not to doing something, but designed to do something. So if I can think of another example, the aeroplane is designed to carry passengers in the air. If you see designed to, the next verb will be an infinitive. The aeroplane is designed to carry passengers. Let's move on to the next step. So we know it's a verb. We're pretty sure it's an infinitive verb based on the meaning and the sound. Could it be make? This part of the exam is designed to make you feeling comfortable. Maybe, maybe. If I'm a student, I'm considering that. Maybe it's make. Maybe it's help. This part of the exam is designed to help you feeling comfortable. Maybe, not sure. Could it be get? This part of the exam is designed to get you feeling comfortable. Okay, so what I'd be thinking is the word make. We would normally say designed to make you feel comfortable, not feeling, but feel. Same with help, designed to help you feel comfortable. But here we have a verb with an ing form. And, as I said, you cannot use make or help for an object, you, and a verb with an ing. The structure would be with an infinitive. But you can use get with an object and then a verb with an ing. To get someone doing something. To get you feeling comfortable. And that is what part 1 of the speaking exam does. It is designed to get you feeling comfortable. If you think of any other options that you think could go in this gap, feel free to write a comment below and let's have a discussion about it. Also, if you're watching this video at a later date, write a comment below. I'd love to hear from you and I'd love to hear your thoughts because maybe there is an option which I have never thought of. So let me know if you think of one. We can discuss it. Blank number 4. Whew. Before we go on to this, let's have a quick momentary pause. Let's pause for a moment, stretch. Maybe you want to do this in the exam. Sometimes I do it, sometimes I jump up and down. Try to break away so I can come back to the task with a fresh frame of mind. So, step number 4. Also, in the exam, before the exam, I advise timing yourself when you do every exercise and write down your marks when you do every exercise. That will help you to know which parts you finish first, which will help you to know which order to tackle the exam in, because maybe you want to start with part 8 in the reading section rather than part 5, for example. Also, writing down your marks is a great idea because you'll have a record of which parts you find easier and which parts you find more difficult. So having a record for how quick it is and how easy each part is will help you to decide which order to tackle the exam, and that could be the difference between passing and failing. Exam Tactics 101 with me, Cambridge Rory. Okay, back to this. So blank 4, blank 4, blank 4, blank 4. The first step is to think of questions related blank, the topics I mentioned earlier. Do you know which word goes in the gap? Could it be 2? That's what I'm thinking. If I'm a student, maybe it's 2. First step is to think of questions related to the topics I mentioned earlier. But still, could also be with. The first step is to think of questions related with the topics I mentioned earlier. I'm not sure. Let's move on to the next step, as we always should, to help us find the right answer. So what type of word is it? Related blank the topics. I think it's going to be a preposition. My knowledge of English so far has led me to think that whenever we use related and then an object after it, we should have a preposition before that object. So, word to and with, both prepositions? Yes, they are. Now let's think about the meaning of the sentence. Related to the topics. Related with the topics. To and relate are a collocation. Related to is an example of a collocation. Normally in English, we say related to and then an object. Now, languages develop over time and English has developed over time. And sometimes there's not always a rule or a reason for why one word goes with another word. Another example could be depend on, but it does happen frequently, and they test you on those words that just so happen to go together. They test you on those in the exam, so it's a good idea to get a good course book and to study collocations. Okay. Here's a quick tip for you. If you don't know, you have no idea, you've gone through all my steps and you still have no idea which word goes in the blank, I suggest identifying the other words that are before and after the gap and try to choose a word which starts with the same letter as one of those other important words, if you can think of one. That's a little tip. If you have no idea, sometimes that might just get you the correct answer. So to think of a word which starts with the same letter as one of the important words around it. And here we are talking about topics related to the topics. So maybe you'd choose a word beginning with T because of topics. And that would be the correct answer. That's not the reason for it being correct, but if you had to guess and you had no idea, I would guess with a word starting with an R or a word starting with a T, because related is with an R and topics is with a T. Maybe, just maybe, I would guess 2. Let's move on to the next blank, blank number 5. So I say the next step is to prepare some answers to 5 blank questions. 5 is just a number. Question 5. The next step is to prepare some answers to blank questions. Do I know which word goes in the gap, goes in the blank? No, I'm going to pretend I don't know. Then, what type of word do we need? So I think maybe we need an article. There are 3 articles in English. Do you know what they are? If you don't, then they are the, a, and an. I think it could be an article. I think it could be, because it's plural, questions with an S, it's probably not a or an, but it could be the. And the reason I think it could be an article is because questions is a noun. And normally, before a noun, we put an article in a sentence. I also think it could be a determiner. Determiner are words like these, those, some, many. It gives more information about the noun. There are many types of determiners in English. So let's think about the meaning and the sound of the sentence. I think it's an article or a determiner. I think it might be the, as I said before. The next step is to prepare some answers to the questions. But I also think it might be these because of the sentence before. We've already talked about sentences, about questions in the sentence before. So I think the word that goes in the gap might be these, but it also might be those. I say here the, I think is too general to use in the exam. The next step is to prepare some answers to the questions. Which questions are we talking about? We can be more specific, and we can be more specific by saying these or those. So that's why for this gap, I think that these or those questions, which are referring to the questions in the previous sentence, are the best answers to use. Let's move on to blank 6. You don't want to speak for blank long, or the examiners might view you unfavourably. Do I know which word goes in the gap? I'm going to pretend that I don't know. What type of word do we need to use? Well, the word long is an adjective, and I think that this word is describing the adjective. And what type of word describes an adjective in English? An adverb. Again, there is more information like that on a link, on a page which I will put a link to in the description and below this video. But there is also loads more useful information like this in my CAE and FCE courses. So make sure you've gone through all those videos as well. You have access to all of them because you are a member of my website. So as I said, the adverb is what we need because it gives more information about the adjective long. Then, the next step, can you remember what it is? It's to think about the meaning or the sound of the sentence. So, I'll ask you here, what is a typical answer to the question, how long? How long? How long is a piece of string? One typical answer to a how long question might be X number of minutes. How long does it take to go from New Zealand to the UK? Thousands of minutes. But another typical answer to the question how long could be not long. How long does it take to go from Spain to Portugal? Not long. Completely depends where you are, I know. Spain is a big country. Another typical answer might be very long. So do any of these fit in our gap here? Well, the first one doesn't because we can only use one word to fill in the gap. You don't want to speak for not long, double negative. Don't want to speak for not long, doesn't really make sense. You don't want to speak for very long or the examiners might view you unfavourably. Okay, you don't want to speak for very long. How long is very long, really? If I say you don't want to speak for very long to an English person, that could mean only speak for 5 seconds or 10 seconds. It's subjective. And for that reason, I don't think that's the correct answer. But there is another word which we can put here, which would be better. Too long. You don't want to speak for too long, or the examiners might view you unfavourably. When we say too long, it has a negative meaning. Okay, and this, again, is based on the speaking part 1. And so this is a good piece of advice. You don't want to speak for too long. Actually, I advise speaking for maybe 3 sentences, which is about 30 seconds in part 1. I think that's a good length of time to answer an examiner's question. That's just some explanation of what I've already said. Too long has the best meaning. If you say don't speak for very long, it could mean only speak for a few seconds. It's subjective. Depends on who says it and their opinion. Blank number 7. You also blank not rehearse scripts before the exam. Do I know which word we need? That should say step number 2, my mistake. The numbers there. Question 7 is good, but this is actually step number 2 in my technique. Do I know the word that we need? I'm going to assume that I don't know the word that I need. The next step, step number 3, good, correct number. What type of word do we need? Well, we have the word rehearse, which is a verb. So I think what we need is an auxiliary verb, because we also have the word not. You also blank not rehearse. And before not and a verb, we normally have an auxiliary verb in English. Again, that's why learning sentence structures is so useful for these exams. Next step, think about the meaning or the sound. What about do? You also do not need or do not rehearse scripts. You also do not rehearse scripts before the exam. Don't I? Maybe you do. I don't think it's a good idea though, and the person who wrote this, I think, is saying it's not a good idea. He's not saying you don't, because he cannot control that. You could write script for the exam. Who can stop you? I mean, if you want to write a script to rehearse, to say in the speaking exam, you can do it. But this person advises you not to do that, and I advise you not to do that. So do is not the best word to fill in the gap. But another auxiliary verb, which is explaining advice or a suggestion, would be more appropriate. Can you think what that could be? Might. You also might not rehearse scripts. Well, okay. That's not really advice though. Might is usually like 50-50. You also might not. You might do, but you might not. It's not really advice. Too vague. But the word should, that's the auxiliary verb that we need. You also should not rehearse scripts before the exam. Okay, now blank number 8. Hopefully I've kept this video engaging enough for you. I'm quite tired because I've been doing live videos now for 2 hours. I did the dictation video just before this. So I'm quite tired and it's Sunday, but as soon as I finish this I'm going to relax for the rest of the day and go outside and enjoy the sunshine and the warm weather here in England in April. When I'm making this, by the way, it's the time of the coronavirus 2020, April 2020, and yeah, it's pretty strange times. I'm locked in my house. I haven't left home for a long time, and I haven't seen any of my family and friends for a long time. Anyway, back to this. Blank number 8. Finally, I recommend learning blank. I recommend learning blank others. My telephone just rang, excuse me. I recommend learning blank others. What step do we need to take? Again, this should say number 2. Sorry about that. Step 2, do I know the word? I don't know the word. Step number 3, what type of word do we need? I recommend learning blank others. Learning. Okay, I think maybe we need a preposition. And a preposition which collocates with the word learning. Learning. What word goes with learning? Do you know? Let's think about the sound of the sentence. I recommend learning from others. I recommend learning from others could mean from other people's experiences. That's an option. I recommend learning from other people's experiences. That is what we're talking about here. We are talking about watching other people and learning from their experiences. I recommend learning with others. Okay. Well, to learn with someone else is to study with that person, or to learn at the same time as that person. And if you members of this website want to study with other people, other members of the site, then you should join these live videos when I do them and write in the chat section of them. And let me know if you want me to create a forum or a group. We already have our private Facebook group community, which is fantastic. We can talk to each other there. But if you'd also like me to build a forum as part of my website to enable you to find other students to work with, other speaking partners to practice with, for example, then let me know and you can learn with those people. So with is an option. Then, what about the word through? I recommend learning through others. Could also be correct. Normally when we say learn through, it is through and then a verb ing. I am learning through reading, I am learning through listening, I am learning through watching others. So, in this gap, I think that you could write all of them, from, with, or through. However, if I was in the exam, I'd probably write from, because to me, that sounds the best. But I think you'd get given a mark for all three of those. If you have any other suggestions, feel free to write them in the comment section below this video or at the bottom of this page. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Okay, and that is the end of this live video. I don't think there have been any comments or questions so far, so I'm going to draw the video to an end there. If you'd like to continue supporting my work, then please subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you haven't done so already, press the bell notification when you do that. I would really appreciate it. Keep learning, recommend my work to other people. I'd love it if you did that. When you watch my videos, it helps my YouTube channel grow, which helps other people find my work. So already you're helping me and you're supporting me. But if you want to do more, give this video a like, subscribe, turn the bell notification on, spread the word. Let's pass those tricky Cambridge exams. And I'm going to finish the video there and say thank you again. Thank you so much for watching and supporting me. I've been Cambridge English teacher Rory from studentlanguages.com. Adios amigos. Bye bye. Ciao. Ciao ragazzi. Have a lovely day. See you soon.